Hey folks, if you're a fan of slasher fics, you're in for a treat since I'll be talking about Team 17's Killer Frequency, a horror-fueled puzzler with a narrative focus. Tune in as I talk about whether this was a terrifying tale or simply terrible. I'm your host Arlian, let's find out together. Welcome, late night listeners, to 189.16 The Scream. Today you'll be joining Forrest Nash, a radio jockey who found himself hosting a late night show in the sleepy town of Gallows Creek. By all accounts, it should be a simple gig, but things take a turn for the worse when he gets the first call of the evening. There's been a brutal murder, and it's likely to be the first of many, given that the perpetrator is none other than the Whistling Man, a serial killer long thought dead. Worse, the 911 operator has her hands full, thus leading to all her calls being rerouted to Forrest in the hopes that he can get people to safety. So begins a long night. As far as the story goes, there's a lot that I like here, given that it manages to do a great job of invoking the tropes of slasher flicks and leaning into them for both comedic purposes and more legitimate bits of discomfort. Quite frankly, I think the latter element is heavily benefited by the ways that Killer Frequency chooses to tell its story, since the limitation of only being able to communicate with potential victims of the Whistling Man vis-a-vis a phone call means you're grappling with the unknown, forced to listen closely as the events unfurl. It's honestly great insofar as building tension.
Oh, I'm not going back out there. Oh, shoot. Oh, he's back.
It also helps that the overall quality of the writing is solid. It manages to do a great job of providing a good, sometimes pulpy horror experience, an enjoyable mystery to explore, and just some fun bits of humor to help ease off the tension occasionally. There really is nothing like cracking a bad joke after you've accidentally killed a caller.
No! So many deaths.
Oh no.
Well, I think we can all agree that was a shocking ending to this call.
Forrest?
Sorry, couldn't help myself.
Because, well, your narrative choices do matter. Each character lives or dies vis-a-vis the instructions you give them, though there are some mechanical aspects to this that I'll be touching on later. In any case, the key thing here is the story is shaped by your decisions. The game acknowledges when you screw up or succeed, and there are key elements of the narrative you'll only be able to piece together if you do your job well, which not only allows you to illuminate central elements of the plot, but also factors into the ending you'll ultimately get. Like I said earlier though, it's not just a matter of picking dialogue options from a menu. Yes, this does encapsulate a fair amount of the experience, alongside the act of, well, being a DJ and putting on music, and even ads at certain times. That said, Killer Frequency also provides a competent puzzle game to engage with, as the various challenges your callers present will leave you racking your brains to figure out the solution. Something which will often oblige you to leave the safety of your office in order to trace out where you might find a hint within the radio station, and from there, how to translate that into something that could help the Whistler's next potential victim. Admittedly, the game is fairly generous insofar as cluing you in that something you've picked up is useful. It's only slightly hampered by the fact that the item management you'll be doing is hampered by the fact that you only have two hands and you're only able to carry one item each. Still, beyond one minute circumstance, I never came across a point where I needed more than that, and There's literally nothing stopping me from grabbing anything of interest that I came across and just tossing it on the recording studio floor for if I felt I needed to refer to it later. Speaking of which, while the walking sim segments where you meander about the office are important, the majority of your experience takes place in the radio booth, given there's that whole important doing your job thing, even while you serve as a discount 911. It's pretty soothing in the midst of all the mayhem, really, and even has the added bonus of influencing some of the dialogue you'll encounter based on which records and radio ads you've played at that point. Which, yeah, let's talk about the audio here for a second, because I was genuinely impressed by this game. It's definitely a title which heavily relies on its sound design, and all of it is just excellent. The voice acting in this is quite good, serving to really drive home how grim situations are, and to further build tension or to ease off it. The banter between Forrest and his producer Peggy really helps to make the experience feel a bit more grounded, and the wry humor provided some much needed levity. Moreover, the music is just a lot of fun. Overall, I think it does a great job of emulating the sort of soundtrack you'd hear in an earlier slasher flick without outright parroting it, and is overall just fun to listen to, which also made hunting down the collectible records hidden around the station a treat, since it meant more songs and even ads.
Oh no, we're out of beer. What am I gonna do? The party is going to be over.
Fear not. A grilling spree will give you a free 6-pack of beer if Gala's High wins this Tuesday.
As for the sound effects, well, like I said in the story segment, there is something distinctly uneasy about being able to hear something without seeing it. A certain sense of anxiety is fostered, and the game leans heavily into it, and often uses it to simultaneously build a sense of urgency. And this attention to sound design also means that the simple silence that takes up certain moments is just as harrowing. Comparatively, I have a lot less to say about the game's aesthetic other than it does a decent job of providing a cozy feeling radio office to hang about, and there are some fun things to encounter, but there really is only the one major set piece. Still, this is a lot of words to say that I thoroughly enjoyed Killer Frequency. For a game that occasionally feels like it's poking fun at the genre, it still provides some legitimately tense moments and an enjoyable narrative to engage with. Mechanically, the puzzles and deductive reasoning that goes into guiding the victims feels fairly logical, and it's forgiving enough, since you can save before major decisions and there's multiple save spots. That, and it also arms you with ample opportunities to take a breather given the whole radio jockey thing. Simply put, I do highly recommend this game, and I think it manages to find a nice balance that ought to appeal to fans of horror, story-focused titles, or just someone seeking out some puzzles to sink their teeth into, which is why I can safely call this a hit. Also, every single segment with Ponty is a memory that I will treasure for some time.
Yourself a cracking deal on our 2-for-1.
God damn it, Ponty, no! No free ads!
Anywho, thanks for tuning in. If you have something to say, leave a comment. And if you enjoy my efforts to create new indie reviews and interviews, hit subscribe and the bell. For a link to my Discord, the Crit Hit Cauldron, check the description. There's also a link to my Patreon if you want to see reviews early or just support the channel. And to my merch house for neat swag like Crit Hit coffee mugs. That said, I'll catch you in the next episode of Crit Hit. Take care till then, folks.